Welcome to the What Juices You podcast, and I want to introduce my guest today, Kris MacQueen. Kris is a longtime friend and a senior facilitator at Juice and rocking our world. Yeah, doing some really exciting things. And so, Kris, just to set it up, for over 20 years, I've been asking people the same question: what juices you? So, what is it that animates you? What is it that it gets you up in the morning? You don't have to fuel or drive it. It drives you. And it's like both the pursuit and the fulfillment of that thing are like the most reliable energy source you can imagine. So I want to get into that. And then the second half is I want to find out, what is your juice for the world?
Yeah.
Right? Like that thing that, not necessarily nobody else can do it, but you do it exquisitely. And so that's the conversation I want to have. We'll take about 15 minutes and then let you free to the rest of your day.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So let's get into this. What juices you? And part of that is like, is there something that happened that predisposed you to feel like this is my energy source? This is what juices you. It may or may not be, but we want to be able to go anywhere you want. Yeah. So let's just go.
I've been thinking about this, and I don't know that I could go to any one particular moment where I was like, okay, this is the thing now. Sure. Like kind of in the early snapshot. But I had an experience actually last week as I was reflecting on, I know we're going to have this conversation, and I just think it's a really appropriate snapshot of the kind of thing that I've had these little moments through my life, and utterly invigorating.
Okay.
So as you know, I have a bit of a side hustle, which is that I'm a musician, singer-songwriter. And so I've written a bunch of songs, released them, most of them to a resounding thud in terms of impact, let's say,
Sure.
But varying degrees of success. I had a song, though, that I released some years ago. I wrote it in the middle of the pandemic. And it was just like asking, what is possible with this world, right? Like everything's kind of getting pulled down. And I was looking at the landscape of what was going on in society and thought, I wonder if we're going to make this thing better or if we're going to make this thing worse. And so I wrote this song, and it was called I Wonder.
Okay.
And I loved it. And I thought, this is going to hit the radio. It's appropriate. It came from the heart, but I saw like this has some value.
And incredibly timely.
Very timely. And it just was like thud.
Wow.
Flat. What it felt like to me anyways. And so, we just have been playing it, but it's just one of the songs in the canon. Well, last week, I get this email from somebody, a teacher in Calgary. We have some mutual people in Calgary. This person is not connected to any of the people that I know there, which is interesting to me. And they say, listen, the subject line is, a quote, I wonder if you would like to collaborate.
Right.
And so I start to dig into this thing, and it's a music director from a school, and they go from like grade 3 or 4 all the way up to grade 12. Mm-hmm. And every year they do this big event in December. It's their Winter Jubilee event.
Yeah.
And so, it's song and dance and the whole thing. And they said, our theme this year, we wanted to really get interesting. So our theme this year is curiosity.
Okay. We
wanted to explore this with our student body. And so we went looking for songs about this stuff, and we came across your song, I Wonder. And how would you feel about us and all 700 of our students performing that as the closing number for the night? And so I'm reading this email, and I'm like,
totally.
Excuse me, what? Right? And so we reach out, respond back and forth, give a bit of the backstory, the context. I mean, we're talking, this is a fairly, the opening line is, I wonder what we'll leave buried.
Yeah.
I wonder what we'll raise.
Okay.
Right? Like we're talking some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But then it asks the question. And so anyway, so we had this conversation this week. My wife and I live connected with him and a colleague, and just so much simpatico. And so, we're absolutely going to be sending a video, talking to the students. We might even record an accompanying track and play with them. They actually wanted us to come, but we couldn't figure it out schedule-wise. But that email, the relationship, the connection, and absolutely invigorating. In fact, I said in our conversation, to them, thank you for making my songwriting career.
Right.
It's worth it now.
Very different definition of impact. It's not paying your mortgage.
No, it's not paying my mortgage. Nope.
But it's going to make a difference, and it already is for you. And it sounds like there's a seed of real excitement for that group.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a bunch of things, and they're definitely the connection, the relationship. I'm also hearing materializing something that makes a difference, kind of a big thing. And I know something about you, and just in terms of getting stuff done, making material in the world, and this making a difference. So there's kind of a constellation of things, and I want to just ask, is there one of those that pops for you? Is it the relationship and connection thing? Is it more than that?
I think that the relationship connection piece is like, I love the possibility of that.
Yeah.
And so the fact that there's that connection, but the thing that I think, if I was to really hone in and say, this moment just cracked open a whole bunch of capacity and energy and enthusiasm for me, it was the idea that that something I wrote that came out of nothing, all of a sudden is living in the minds. And from what I'm hearing, I actually also had a parent reach out independently from that teacher and say, my child is listening to your song. And they were very, I mean, again, just talking about the impact. And so that this thing that came out of a moment of actual some angst for me, that it would translate into the imagination of 700 kids and educational faculty, and that they just stumbled across it and found value. They found it cold. They did a search for wonder, and it was the song that was under Kanye West's tune. And they said, well, we don't want Kanye's tune. And so the fact that it resonated and had that kind of value and is forming something, a thought, a perspective, that to me, like, I don't know that you can top that. I don't know that there's an award. Yes, I would like a Juno one day.
Yeah. Let's just be clear about that.
But it will not top that.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your juice world, because I'm seeing huge parallels between this of taking something that lives out in the ether, that is very embryonic and seed-like, and somehow creating either language, a tool, an app that is going to do the same type of thing, right? And so the journey of creation that lives in the minds, but also in the hands and the lives of people, that's some of the stuff I see you're doing here. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I have been thinking about this too. This is something that I think spreads out over multiple careers as well for me. Making something that is maybe not net new, but I have a fingerprint on it. That is valuable for other people, but not just valuable. When the thing that lights me up and what I love, if I think about particularly the work that you and I do, and the moment which happened very early on for me of thinking, oh my God, this is what I want to do, is where it's something that becomes internalized and helps connect a human being with actually their own contribution. And when I think about different mentoring that I've done, even as a manager way back in the day when I was at the bookstore and I'm hiring people and on the ground teams, seeing people step into their best space, level up into a meaningful contribution, I just come alive. Like, my whole countenance, I can feel it shift when I see somebody else stepping into the zone, and I know that I had a part to play. There's something in it. And I was reflecting on this the other day, that it is also somewhat miraculous that this feels like such an energizer for me, and that adding that kind of value. And the reason why is because in the early days of being a creator, I wanted significance and glory. I wanted to be top of the field. I wanted to be the best. That mattered to me. And I remember being in my early 20s, seeing people at the top of their game and burning, not necessarily with jealousy, but with envy. And at some point, that thing switched and went from being toxic to being absolutely, that's maybe too strong a term, but there was a transition. And I was just thinking about how grateful I am. I don't know where that came from, but the pivot, something that was actually a weight, became lift.
Yeah.
Which was seeing other people flourish.
Yeah. So this is putting a really beautiful and a finer point on creating something that lives in the hearts and minds, but not just so for amusement, let's say, which doesn't matter with that, or entertainment.
It's fine.
But that connects them with their contribution in the world. This is now talking about some sort of possibility that has a multiplying factor and almost exponential. Like, if I can light people up and connect them to their contribution and be the creator of something that does that, that is your thing.
If you dangle that in front of me, I will run the ultra on my broken knees, my busted out knees. That you put that out in front of me and it just feels like I will run all the way.
So that's your jam. It's your juice. Tell me what happens when you see that happening in one of your sessions. Like, you can tell, can't you?
Yeah.
And it's not every session that it happens, and it's not to everybody that it happens. But when it does, what does that feel like? What is that? What's going on there?
There is, and I don't know what it looks like for others, but what it feels like for me is that light comes shooting out of my eyeballs.
Yeah.
Not
their eyeballs, your eyeball.
Well, but that's the thing. When I see, it's a countenance.
Yeah.
It's an energy in the way somebody maybe speaks up or contributes or asks a question or even challenges something.
Right.
When it's an intelligent challenge, when it's connected into a moment of insight, like it just, that when I experience that, whatever it is, what it feels like for me is like I feel like my countenance shifts.
Right.
And
because they are trying to find out, can I own this myself?
Yes.
And challenging, and it's the pursuit of that. Not only is it not off-putting, but it says to you, oh my goodness, look at this. This person is about to own this and make their own contribution.
Yeah. And that, again, there's something that, like, when we think about capacity and energy, I feel like, particularly in the professional environment, not that I would tap it down, but sometimes I feel that thing coming on, and it's like, okay, I still have to kind of keep us on task here. But what I'm doing, there's just an overflow of an interior world that just absolutely loves those moments. And it's like, if I could park everything and just have a conversation with that individual.
Sure.
That
I've seen it too, like where you invite people to stay after.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. And I love it when they don't happen often, but when they do happen, it's like, I come down and I'll speak, interacting with my wife, with Liv, and it's like, bouncy.
You're lit up.
Yeah.
This, I think, is going to take us right into the next piece, which is, what is your juice for the world? Yeah. So, and maybe it's just as simple as what we just talked about. That's what you do. But I'd like to just explore that. So, and just to set the context here, for me, for whatever reason, I create energizing connections.
Yeah.
Now, that can be two people who weren't connecting, now are connecting. It could be two functions. It could be an organization with their customers or whatever. Or it can be somebody who goes, oh my goodness, I just got a connection in the midst of this session that is incredibly energizing. But yeah, creating energizing connections. Now, life served that up to me early on in ways that I wouldn't have thought were a gift at that point.
Right.
I had two brothers who had a vicious fight. They vowed they would never speak to each other again. I ended up being drawn into the space between. So connections became very important to me. and it became the way that I inhabited the world to bring value to all sorts of situations. So I'm asking, we now know a little bit about what your juice
Yeah.
is, and is there something, and there may not be, that happened in your life that if and as you already said, I shifted from significance and
Mm,
it's like, yeah, bring the adoration on and the glory to no, that's toxic. And that cannot be for me.
yeah.
And you somehow pivoted. So was it then, or is there something early on that caused you to be a person to say, if I can help people connect with their unique contribution in the world, that will be the work of my life?
Mm. It's a really interesting question. There's a few places that I could go with that. And I feel like it's probably, I don't know how connected they are. I'm sure they must be.
Yeah.
But the one is uh, when other people step into their own creative contributions. We've already kind of said that, but specifically, they're creating their net new thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's something in that.
Okay,
And
that's a little bit different than what we were saying
yeah,
before. It's
yeah,
additive. Yeah.
yes, yeah. And then the other thing that is, I think it's connected, but I haven't quite mapped it all out in my own synapses how. But I know that one of the contributions that I have made over the course of different versions of my own value creation, let's say, for others is driving for resilience.
Yeah.
And so, in the face of adversity, in the face of maybe challenging realities or bleak possibilities, how can we hold out for something that is beautiful?
Yeah.
So that resilience, that tether to better possibility. I feel like, somebody said to me years and years ago, I think I was 18 at the time, and they said, I think that you're like, and this is a weird thing to say out loud, but I feel like you're a ship with a very deep keel.
Huh.
And in your life, you're going to navigate stormy waters, and they're going to be able to kind of break through some of the waves and create a way for other people to find their way in the space of chaos. And I don't know how all of that fits together, but that feels resonant for me. And
I
as
love
I
that.
look back over the various functions and ways that I've served others, it feels consistent.
I'm hearing this beautiful mixture of I want to help people connect with their contribution to the world, but it's not just their contribution. It's not their contribution in the midst of everything going swimmingly beautiful.
Yeah, right.
It's their contribution in the midst of what we all know is going to be suffering, adversity, setbacks, reversals, and help them be the type of resilient person that not just gets through it, but creates their net new thing that produces beauty in the world.
Yeah.
That is an interesting mixture.
Yeah.
It's not just I want to help people get through stuff, which is fantastic in itself, but to get through in a way that they're able to create a net new form of beauty in the world. Is that getting closer?
I think we're starting to circle in pretty tight around.
Why is beauty so important to you?
Why is beauty so important to me?
Like,
Because
it's not a more functional world you're talking about.
No.
It's not a more, let's get more extraction and bigger and better. You're talking about beauty.
Because in the deepest, darkest moments of my story, there were sunsets. There were beautiful moments. There were connections that carried that there was a benevolence in the universe that I could lean in on.
Yeah.
Beauty tells me that there's a benevolence that lives under the chaos and maybe over the chaos, but there's something that is a deeper foundation for me. Beauty tells that story.
Isn't it something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sense making in one sense.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
There is some form of coherence, and beauty is that little shimmering thing that tells me there's something down beneath.
And it gives lift rather than drag.
Yeah.
And so much of the accoutrements of world right now and uncertainty, it tends to have drag. So beauty gives us lift. If we can find the thing that we can focus on, even in the middle of the dark storms or the whatevers, resilience, art, creativity, there's something in there that I think might just be sufficient to heal the world.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. It takes us to our last question, and which is, well, first of all, thank you. I'm really grateful. And speaking, I want to just say, what's the wish that you would have for the people who are listening or watching today, if you had one wish for them? So I'm hearing all that we've just said. I won't reiterate it, but beauty could be, I'm able to get through ambiguity and be able to function in a way that really serves my team.
Yeah.
It could be beauty in terms of how our team functions together in ways that are incredibly exciting and energizing. I mean, there's different forms of beauty. Some of that goes home. And so what's your wish around everything you've said so far for the audience?
Just thinking of the phrase that we use sometimes, a generous interpretation. I think that would be my wish for people, would be to act on a generous interpretation, even if occasionally we end up looking the fool or looking naive. To me, it relates to everything we've talked about. If we can interpret towards a generous interpretation of what is possible, I think that the long arc of that is a movement towards better teams, stronger relationships, more beauty, not less, more generosity, not less. Yeah. I think that there's something in that.
Yeah,
would be my wish. Would be that would be it might be intrinsic. It might be actually a skill that we learn. I think it's maybe both.
Yeah, it feels to me like that generous interpretation is the person in the midst of whatever they're going through, and something is touching that huge, deeper benevolence.
Yes.
Because the benevolence is the thing that even allows me to have a generous interpretation.
Yeah, and different from optimism. I mean, optimism is fine, but this is a choice to live under an assumption that there's a reason for a generous interpretation. And I would say there's even a strategic advantage in that, but that's a whole other conversation.
Sure. Yeah. This was rich. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kris MacQueen, Senior Facilitator at Juice.